Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Saturday, February 14th, 2026. And if you have looked at a calendar or walked into a grocery store or opened any app on your phone in the last 24 hours, you know exactly what that means.
It's the day of reckoning, or I guess as it's more commonly known, a Valentine's Day.
That's right. The day of red roses and exorbitant dinner reservations, and for a lot of people, a very specific kind of high-stakes anxiety.
It really is the Super Bowl of sentimental pressure, isn't it?
It is. I was walking past the greeting card aisle this morning, and it looked like a war zone of pink foil and lace. I mean, there were people frantically reading cards, trying to find one that says, I love you, without being too cheesy, but also not too distant.
The tightrope walk.
It's this massive cultural litmus test, you know?
Yeah.
The narrative is, if you don't nail the sentimentality today, if you don't achieve maximum mush, you have somehow failed at human connection.
You know, it's funny you use that word mush. That word actually triggers a specific memory from our research stack this week.
Oh, really? Is mush a technical term now in theology?
In a way, yes. I was reading through the difference between real and counterfeit love, one of the core sources we're unpacking today. And there's this fantastic anecdote in there. It's about an Inuit man living in the frozen north.
Okay, take us to the Arctic. I'm ready.
So picture the scene. It's the dead of winter. We are talking sub-zero temperatures, howling winds, you know, the kind of cold that hurts your face. And this man decides he needs to see his sweetheart.
A noble quest. A romantic quest.
Truly. He harnesses up his dog team and drives them over 100 miles across the tundra. He's battling the elements, risking frostbite, navigating through ice and snow. Just pure physical misery, all to get to the village where she lives.
That is the cinematic gesture. I mean,
Right.
that is the climax of every romantic comedy ever made. He arrives, frozen but triumphant.
Exactly. So he bursts through the door, icicles hanging from his beard, exhausted, shivering. He looks her in the eyes and says, dramatically, I love you.
Yeah. What did she say?
And she looks at him, completely unimpressed, and says, that's a lot of mush.
Wow. That is cold. Literally and figuratively.
But here's the thing. She wasn't wrong. And I think that anecdote is actually the perfect hook for our mission today, because right now, the world is obsessing over the mush. We're focused on the feelings, the chocolates, the grand gestures, the transient sentimentality. And hey, enjoy the chocolate. I'm not anti-chocolate.
Oh, you're definitely pro-chocolate on this show. That's an official stance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But our goal for this deep dive is to pivot. We want to strip away the mush and look for the structural steel. We're looking for the ancient, sturdy, heavy-lifting definition of love found in the Bible.
We're going deep into the architecture of relationships, not just the decorations.
Correct. We're going to camp out primarily in Romans chapter 12, which is, I would argue, one of the most dense and practical chapters in the New Testament regarding how humans treat other humans.
We have a monster stack of sources to help us do that.
We do. We have excerpts from the Disciple-Making Parent. We have some pretty heavy theological breakdowns of Greek terminology, which I know is your favorite. We have transcripts of sermons on authentic love by John MacArthur, and some incredibly practical, almost tactical guides on social media conduct from Christ Fellowship and Kingdom Revelations.
And the core question we're tackling is huge, especially for 2026. It's this. How do we move from a culture of unhonor, where we just ignore people's value, to a culture of honor? And how on earth do we do that in the digital age where, let's be honest, honor goes to die in the comment section?
That is the challenge. We're moving from the warm fuzzies of Valentine's to the spiritual armor of sincere love.
I love that distinction. Okay, let's unpack this. We're throwing around this word honor. And I feel like in modern English, that word feels a bit dusty, you know, like something you see on a plaque or hear in a movie about knights. I fight for my honor, but we don't really use it in daily life.
It has definitely fallen out of the common vernacular. But the concept is vital to the biblical worldview. One of our sources, the Disciple-Making Parent, introduces a fascinating term to describe our current state. The author calls it unhonor.
Unhonor. Now, is that just a fancy way of saying dishonor? Or is there a difference?
No, and the distinction is crucial. Dishonor is active. Dishonor is disrespect. It's an insult. It's spitting in someone's face or calling them a slur. It is an attack on their dignity.
Right. It's aggressive. It takes effort.
Unhonor is different. Unhonor is passive. It's simply the state where the value of another person never even crosses your mind. It's invisibility. It's looking right through the cashier at the grocery store as if they're a vending machine.
Yeah.
It's scrolling past a human being's plea for help because you're bored. It's not that you hate them. It's that they don't matter enough for you to register their existence.
That actually feels worse. in a way. Hate at least requires energy. Unhonor is just
Erasure. Exactly. And to cure that, we have to go back to the definition of honor. The root idea isn't just being nice, it's economic. It literally means to fix a price.
to fix a price, like an appraisal.
Yes, to value, to revere. It is a heart attitude that perceives worth in someone else, a high price tag, and then acts accordingly.
So it's like walking into a room and realizing everyone is wearing a price tag. And if I see a cheap plastic cup, I treat it one way. I might toss it around. If I see a Ming vase, I treat it very differently. I'm careful. I'm respectful.
Precisely. And the biblical argument is that in the kingdom of God, there are no plastic cups. Everyone you meet is a Ming vase. Everyone bears the image of God. So you fix the price at priceless for every single interaction.
That changes the perspective immediately. It's not about whether I like you or agree with you. It's about what you are worth intrinsically.
And this isn't just a general be kind instruction. When we look at Romans 12.10, which is our anchor text today, Paul uses a very specific and actually quite rare Greek word to describe this kind of love.
I knew the Greek was coming. Lay it on us.
The word is philostorgos.
So Sorgos, it sounds like a dinosaur.
It does a little bit, yeah. But it's a compound word, and it's fascinating. You have the first half, philos, which most people know. That's friendship love. That's the warm affection you have for your buddies, the people you choose to hang out with.
Right. Philos is easy. It's comfortable. It's earned in a way.
But then you have the second half, storge.
Storge. And what is that?
Storge is natural family love, the instinctive bond. Think of a mother to a nursing child, or the bond between siblings who share the same DNA. It's a love you don't choose based on merit. It's in the blood. It's a you are part of me kind of love.
Okay, so wait, let's put this in context. Paul is writing to the church in Rome. This is a group of people who are not related by blood at all. You have Jews, Gentiles, slaves, free citizens, wealthy merchants, poor laborers. They have nothing in common genetically.
Correct. A very diverse and probably contentious group.
And he's using a word that implies they should love each other with the same instinctive, blood-sealed attachment as a biological mother loves her child.
That is exactly it. In fact, scholars note that this is the only place in the entire New Testament this specific word is used. It implies that Christians are supposed to love each other with an attachment that is sealed by nature and blood. But here, the blood isn't genetic, it's the blood of Christ.
That is intense, because usually we think of church friends as, oh, that's the guy I see on Sundays, we wave, maybe grab a coffee. Phil Storgos is saying, no, that's your family. You are stuck with them and you are devoted to them.
It creates a new category of relationship, the faith family. And just to dial up the intensity, Romans 12.10 actually uses two words for love. It says, be philostordos, devoted in family love to one another in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love.
Right. Brotherly affection. So Paul is piling it on. He's saying, I want you to have the warmth of friendship and the unbreakable bond of family. It's a double locking mechanism on how we relate to each other.
So if that's the what, this high-value family-style honor, the who becomes the next question. Who do we actually honor? Because my instinct, and I think the listener's instinct, is to honor people who are honorable. You know, people who are impressive or nice to me or who have power.
That is the human default. It's transactional honor. I honor you because you can do something for me or because you earned it.
Right.
But the biblical model, as laid out in the Disciple-Making Parent source, gives us a list of 7 specific people God tells us to honor. And spoiler alert, merit isn't the primary filter.
Okay, let's walk through the list. Who is number 1?
Number 1 is the classic. Parents, honor your father and mother.
The bridge commandment.
Yes, scholars call it the bridge commandment because the 10 commandments are split. The first 4 are God word, love God, no idols, etc. The last 5 are man word, don't kill, don't steal. Honoring parents is the bridge that connects our relationship with God to our relationship with humanity. It is the first authority we ever encounter.
That makes sense. But this source made a really interesting distinction for adults. Because I think a lot of listeners might be thinking, well, I'm 40. Do I still have to obey my parents? What if they are toxic?
A vital distinction. In childhood, the primary expression of honor is obedience. You do what you're told. But as we transition to adulthood, the command shifts from obedience to honor. You don't have to obey your parents' curfews when you're 40.
Right.
You don't have to agree with their politics. But you never graduate from the command to honor them.
So what does honor look like without obedience?
It looks like reverence. It looks like refusing to speak ill of them to others.
Huh.
It looks like financial support in their old age, as 1 Timothy 5 suggests. It means maintaining a posture of respect, even if you have to draw boundaries for your own mental health or the health of your own family. It's complex.
That's a tough needle to thread, but a necessary one. And the source threw in a curveball. It includes in-laws.
It does. The Bible doesn't really offer a loophole for relatives by marriage. So, strictly speaking, in a culture of honor, all those mother-in-law jokes are, well, they're contraband.
Oh man, there goes half of my stand-up routine.
You'll have to find new material.
Okay, so parents are number one. Who's next?
Number 2 is the older. Leviticus 19.32 says, "You shall stand up before the gray head and honor the face of an older man."
Standing up when an older person walks in. That used to be standard manners, didn't it? Now I feel like if you did that, people would look at you like you were crazy.
It is deeply countercultural. We live in a society fascinated by youth. We act as if the newest generation has all the answers, and the older generation is just obsolete software. But biblical honor says there is weight and glory in the gray head. It's fighting that un-honor epidemic again, refusing to overlook them just because they aren't trending.
I love that. It's treating experience as an asset, not a liability. Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is the spouse. 1 Peter 3.7. Viewing the spouse as a co-heir of life.
The source mentioned something specific here about jokes again.
It did. It said, no jokes at the spouse's expense.
That's a big one in our culture. All the comedy and sitcoms are built on the ball and chain, the old lady, the incompetent husband trope.
It gets a cheap laugh, but it creates a culture of dishonor in the home. Honor means holding them in high esteem publicly. It's protection. You don't tear down your teammate to bond with the crowd. It's a violation of that Philistorgos bond.
Moving on to number 4. This one is, well, it's usually where people start checking out.
Governmental authority. Romans 13.7. Honor the emperor.
And we have to remember the context here, right?
Mm.
Because it is very easy to say, honor the president when your guy won. It is very, very hard when the other guy won.
Extremely hard. But remember, Peter and Paul were writing these commands during the reign of the Roman Empire. They were often writing under emperors like Nero, who was actively persecuting Christians. We are talking about a regime that was hostile to the faith.
So if they could command honor for the position of authority while a man like Nero was on the throne,
Then we have very little excuse for our modern political discourse. The principle is that we honor the position and the structure God has allowed, even if the person is difficult. It doesn't mean agreeing with everything, but it means the way we dissent must be honorable. No slander, no vitriol.
that hits hard. Okay, number 5.
Workplace authority, 1 Timothy 6.1. Not joining in the complaining about the boss culture.
The water cooler grumbling session. It bonds people together. Can you believe what he did? She's clueless.
It bonds them in shared dishonor. It's a toxic bond. But the Christian is called to stand out by refusing to participate in that tearing down. You do your work with excellence, and you speak with respect.
Number 6.
Church leaders, 1 Timothy 5.16. Those who watch over you spiritually. The source asked a really poignant question. Are you taking their service for granted? Do you esteem them? Do you honor them?
And finally, number 7. This is the catch-all.
Those in your church, your peers, Romans 12.10 again, the all-encompassing command. And this leads us right into the mechanism of how we do this, which brings us to our second big Greek word for today.
Yes, let's get into the mechanics. Because it's one thing to have a list of who to honor. It's another to know how to execute it. We talked about Philistorgos, family love. But Romans 12.10 has another phrase that I think is the secret sauce. Outdo one another in showing honor.
The Greek word there is progiomai.
Progiomai.
It means to go before, to lead the way, or my favorite translation, to lead the way in giving respect.
So it's a race, a competition.
It is a competition, but think about how we usually compete. We compete for status. We compete for money. We compete to be the smartest person in the room. The one-up game. Oh, you went to Hawaii. Well, I went to Fiji.
Right. You're tired. Let me tell you how tired I am.
Exactly. Paul is flipping that human instinct on its head. He's saying, I want you to compete. I want you to try to one-up each other, but the game is honor. I want you to race to be the first one to show respect. I want you to out-honor the person in front of you.
I bet you can't honor me more than I honor you.
That's the spirit. And here's where it gets really interesting. Usually in human nature, we wait for respect before we give it. I'll respect him when he earns it. I'll be nice to her when she apologizes. Progiomai means you don't wait. You take affirmative action. You treat them as superior to yourself before they've done anything to deserve it.
That is radical. That reverses the flow of almost every interaction we have. It requires you to absorb the cost up front.
Yeah.
You're initiating.
And that is why it connects back to this idea of authentic love. We have some great material from John MacArthur and Kingdom Revelations on this. They contrast this purge my honor with what they call counterfeit love.
We mentioned the Beatles earlier. All you need is love.
A great song, but a theological fallacy if you define love the way the world does. The sources point out that popular culture defines love often as just tolerance. You do you. Or sexual passion, the Greek porneia. MacArthur calls these deadly frauds or even satanic forgeries.
That's strong language.
But it's necessary, because if I just tolerate you, I'm not honoring you. I'm just putting up with you. I am indifferent to your highest good. And if I just desire you sexually, I'm not honoring you. I'm consuming you for my own gratification.
There's a story in the KLOV source that illustrated this transactional counterfeit love perfectly. The gym friend.
Yes. This story really resonated with me because I think we've all been on both sides of it. The author talks about working as a custodian at a church school. A guy comes up to him one day, super friendly, inviting him to play basketball, acting like his best buddy.
Sounds like the start of a beautiful friendship.
You'd think. They talk for 20 minutes, but then the pivot. The guy asks to use the school gym after hours. The custodian says, sorry, I can't do that. I don't have the authority. I don't have the keys. And instantly, friendship over. The guy goes cold, walks away, and never speaks to him again.
He didn't want a friend. He wanted a key to the gym.
Exactly. That is hypocrisy. Romans 12.9 says, let love be without hypocrisy. That guy's love was a counterfeit. It looked like Philo's friendship, but it was actually just selfishness wearing a mask.
And I think we've all felt that. Being loved for what we can provide, not who we are. It feels terrible. It feels like an honor.
It makes you feel cheap, like a tool, not a person, like a plastic cup.
So we have this high calling. Family devotion, Philostorgos, competitive honor, progeomai, and avoiding the counterfeit. Now, I want to take this beautiful ancient theology and drop it into the most hostile environment known to man.
The internet.
The digital battlefield.
Yeah.
Because honestly, applying Romans 12 to my grandmother is one thing. Applying it to an anonymous troll on X or a Facebook comment thread, that feels impossible.
It is the ultimate test. If your theology doesn't work on social media, it doesn't work. The source material from Kingdom Revelations puts it perfectly. Social media is an environment designed for unhonor.
It really is. It encourages us to treat people not as heavy or valuable time, but as common.
That leads us to the third Greek word for today. Atimos. It means dishonor, or literally without price. It means to treat something as ordinary or cheap. When we are online, we don't see the gray head of the older person. We don't see the image of God in the stranger. We see an avatar. We see a username.
A block of text that angers us.
A block of text that angers us. And so we strip them of their value. We treat them as atimos.
The source notes that people are quick to defend themselves by attacking when called out, creating this cycle of dogs chasing their tails.
It's a reactive cycle, a downward spiral of dishonor. You hurt me, I hurt you harder. You dishonor me, I destroy you.
So let's do the flip it exercise. This was a really cool part of the research. We take Romans 12 and we look at what the social media version looks like today. I'll give you the scripture, you give me the timeline reality.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, scripture says, bless those who persecute you. Social media says.
Curse them. Plot revenge. Take a screenshot of their tweet and quote tweet it so your followers can pile on. Let the resentment fester until you can destroy their reputation.
Scripture says, live in harmony. Social media says.
Create division, stir the pot, find a wedge issue and hammer it. And if anyone calls you out, just say you're telling the truth or being authentic. Being real is the ultimate defense for being mean.
That's a big one.
Okay.
Okay, the scripture says, associate with the humble. Social media says.
Associate with the powerful. Tag the influencers. Ignore the people with 12 followers. Try to get the blue checkmark people to notice you so you can elevate your own status.
It's ugly when you lay it out like this. It's almost a perfect inversion of the text.
It is. We aren't just failing at Romans 12 online. We are actively doing the opposite. And that's why we need a strategy. We can't just say, be nicer. We need tactical steps.
Right. So we have pulled 3 actionable steps from the Christ Fellowship and Coastal Church sources. These are for anyone listening who wants to stop being a keyboard warrior and start being an honor warrior.
I like that. Honor warrior.
Step 1, prioritize them. We're calling this the stop scrolling rule.
This goes back to Phyllis Dorgo's family love. Think about it. If your actual brother was sitting in the room with you, telling you about his day, and you just stared at your phone watching cat videos, that would be incredibly rude.
It communicates this screen is more valuable than your face. It's unhonored in action.
Exactly. But we do this digitally all the time. We passively consume content from strangers while ignoring the people we are actually connected to.
So the action here is moving from passive consumption to active engagement.
Exactly. Prioritizing means making time for the people you honor. On social media, instead of just mindlessly scrolling for an hour, stop. Look at a post from someone you actually know. Read it. Engage with it. Or, better yet, put the phone down and prioritize the person physically in the room with you. Treat them as blood family.
Step 2, praise them, the comment rule.
This is progeomai, outdoing one another in honor. The source suggests we purpose to speak well of others.
Not just a like. A like is lazy honor. It's the bare minimum.
A like is the minimum viable product of interaction. It costs you nothing. The challenge here is to leave a specific, encouraging comment. Highlight their achievement, not just their selfie. Say, I really admire how you handled that project, or your perspective on this helped me. Be specific.
There was a story in the Dan Ryland source that perfectly illustrates the power of specific praise. The wrestling coach story.
Oh, this one got me. So there's a high school wrestler. He's not the star of the team. He's actually the third string.
Yeah.
He barely wrestled in any meets. He was basically a practice dummy for the starters. And he was considering quitting because he felt invisible.
An honor again. He felt like he had no price tag.
Exactly. So he goes to the end-of-year banquet, sits in the back corner, hiding, just waiting for it to be over. The coach stands up to give speeches, and he calls this kid's name.
And the kid is terrified. What was he going to say? I sat on the bench all year.
The coach tells the whole room, I wish more of you were like him, because he was at every single practice. He was at every tournament. He never quit. He has the heart of a champion. That young man said that moment changed his life. He went out for the team the next year. And here's the kicker. 53 years later, he saw that coach and told him about it. And the coach didn't even remember saying it.
53 years.
Yeah.
A single comment of honor lasted half a century.
That is the power we hold in our hands or in our thumbs on our phones. A specific comment of honor can fuel someone for a lifetime. Why would we withhold that? It costs us so little.
That is incredible. Okay, step 3, protect them.
The no gossip rule.
This is the hardest one online. Protecting someone's reputation when they aren't in the room or, in the chat thread.
This is the no cancel culture rule.
It is refusing to join the digital pile-on.
Yeah.
If you see a comment thread trashing someone, the culture of honor says you do not add your voice to that. You either shut it down with truth or you just walk away. You protect their dignity even when it's unpopular. But I want to address something real here because I can hear a listener saying, okay, I'm doing all this. I'm prioritizing, I'm praising, I'm protecting, but nobody is doing it for me. I'm pouring out honor and I'm getting nothing back. That leads to burnout. It really does.
It does, and that is because we often seek honor from the internet, rather than viewing the internet as a place to give honor. We're looking for a return on our investment.
We want the likes, we want the validation, we want the shares.
There is a great analogy in the source material about a Rolex.
The fake Rolex.
Right. If someone gives you a fake Rolex, it might look shiny, it might fool people from a distance, but if you hold it up to your ear, it ticks. Tick, tick, tick. A real Rolex has a sweeping movement. It doesn't tick. It flows.
So the validation of the world, the likes, the shares, that's the ticking.
It is. Seeking validation from the world is like accepting a fake Rolex. It looks like honor, but it's a cheap imitation. It doesn't have the sweeping movement of God's approval. If you live for the pics, you will burn out. You will always be hungry for the next tick.
So how do we shift that mindset? How do we stop caring about the ticks?
We have to shift from a consumer mindset, what can this app give me, to a participant mindset. How can I serve here? And deeply, this is about obedience to Christ.
Like the theological pivot?
Jesus washed feet. Jesus died for his enemies. He didn't wait for them to honor him before he served them. Obedience to his example has to outweigh the dopamine hit of personal validation.
One source quoted John 15:13, and greater love has no one than this, that someone lays down his life. And in a digital context, maybe that means laying down your right to be right.
Or your right to have the last word in an argument. That is a small death, but it is where honor is born.
I love that. Laying down the right to the last word. That's a Valentine's gift to the whole internet right there.
That's a Valentine's gift to the whole internet right there.
It truly is.
Okay, so we've talked about the struggle. Now let's talk about the defense. Because if we're going to go out there and be these agents of honor, these honor warriors, we need protection. We need spiritual armor. Colossians 3.14 gives us the image. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony.
Put on love, like a garment, like a
Yeah,
piece of clothing.
exactly. The Source Kingdom Revelations makes a very practical, almost funny comparison. It says we need to put on love just like we put on deodorant or socks.
Deodorant. I like that. Please, folks, for the sake of everyone around you, put on your spiritual deodorant.
It's funny, but it's profound. You don't put on deodorant once in January and say, okay, I'm good for the year. It's a daily decision. It's a hygiene habit. Love is not a feeling that hits you. It's a garment you choose to put on every single morning before you face the world, especially before you open your phone.
It acts as armor.
It does. Ephesians 4.27 warns us, do not give the devil a foothold.
A foothold,
Mm.
like a rock climber finding a crack to get started.
When we are unloving, when we are reactive, when we let that bitterness fester online, we are handing the enemy the keys to our emotional chaos. We're giving him a foothold in our hearts and our minds.
There was a quote in the source that gave me chills. Heaven doesn't send backup for drama, it sends backup for love.
That is the backup concept. If you are engaged in drama, you are on your own. You're fighting in the flesh. But if you choose sincere love, if you choose honor, you are aligning yourself with heaven. And heaven protects its own. It acts as a shield against those fiery coals of online rage.
And this armor is unconditional, right? We don't wait to feel loving to put it on. That's not the point.
No. We cite C.S. Lewis here. He pointed out a brilliant truth. We don't always feel fond of ourselves.
That's true. I annoy myself all the time.
Yet, even when you annoy yourself, you still feed yourself, you still dress yourself, you still protect yourself from traffic. You treat yourself with love regardless of your feelings. Lewis argues we must do the same for our neighbor, and yes, for that random user in the comment section. We treat them with the care we give ourselves, regardless of whether we like them in that moment.
That is the sturdy definition of love we were looking for. It's not mush.
Yeah.
It's work. It's armor. It's discipline.
It is the only thing that sustains relationships beyond the holiday, beyond the box of chocolates.
So as we wrap up, let's do a quick rapid-fire recap of what this sincere love from Romans 12 actually looks like.
Yeah.
If we are walking this out, what are the attributes?
Okay, straight from the text. It hates evil but clings to good. It's not soft on sin, it's just hard on dishonor.
Okay.
It is patient in tribulation. Even when the internet is driving you crazy, it is constant in prayer. You're praying for the people you want to mute.
That's a challenge.
It contributes to the needs of the saints. It's hospitality, both online and off, and it does not repay evil for evil. No revenge posting, no subtweeting.
That is a powerful checklist. And there was one more theological nugget I wanted to touch on before we go, a term from the Hellerman source. Familification.
Familification. I love this word. It captures the essence of what we've been saying. Salvation isn't just you and God in a vertical silo. We are saved into a family. We are familified.
So the church, this messy, sometimes dysfunctional group of people, is the faith family that actually takes priority, even over biological ties, in terms of spiritual loyalty.
That's the Philistorgos again. We are blood relatives through Christ. And if we really believe that, it would change how we treat each other. You don't cancel your sister. You don't unfollow your brother in the real sense. You work it out. You honor them.
That brings us to our final thought for the day. And this one is a bit of a challenge to leave you with.
It's a provocative thought based on Mark chapter 6.
Jesus goes to his hometown, Nazareth, the people who knew him best, the people who should have honored him most.
But they didn't. They said, isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son? They treated him as common, atomos. Without price, they dishonored him.
And the text says something terrifying. He could not do any miracles there.
Their atmosphere of dishonor actually disrupted the supernatural work of God. It put a limit on it.
So the question for you, listening right now, on Valentine's Day 2026, if an atmosphere of dishonor stopped Jesus from doing miracles in his own hometown, what is our culture of dishonor suppressing in our lives right now?
What miracles are we missing out on? What breakthroughs in our marriages, our workplaces, our churches are simply not happening because we refuse to honor the people right in front of us?
That is something to chew on while you eat your chocolates today.
Indeed.
Our challenge to you. Go outdo someone in honor today. Don't wait for them to earn it. Fix a high price tag on them and treat them like they are priceless.
Take the lead. Pro GMI.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.